Hey guys, what's up? My name's Christian. I'm a pre-PA student. I'll be applying to the PA program about 2 months now. So I just finished class, started class from 10 to 1 o'clock. Yeah. I had calculus, organic chemistry 2, and meteorology. So I got my notebook here, got Quizlet open, got my printed slides here. And then after this, I'm going to do a workout as soon as I finish recording this video, so I don't have much time for this. Today what we're going to talk about is how I studied for the GRE. So I took the GRE last year over the summer, at the end of the summer, so I had the summer to study for. Some people take it at winter break. I wanted, as much time as possible, so that's why I chose over the summer. So I scored a 307. Which is much more than I would have hoped for because my school prefers anything over a 290. The average nationwide is around a 300, and the average for my school was a 296 for people going into the PA program. So the people that were actually accepted, the score was a 296. So a 307 is very competitive for my school and a lot of schools out there as well. It's not extremely competitive, but it's better than average, which makes it competitive. So yeah, I studied for about 3 months. I started as soon as school ended. I actually didn't even wait. While I was taking finals, I was still studying for the GRE during that spring semester. And so I started in May, then I had all of June and July, and then I actually took it August 12th. So I had, the first week of August to take my practice tests and review a few topics. So what did I do during those 3 and almost a half months? So right away, I just want to say you don't need 3 months to study for the GRE. The reason I took 3 months is because I knew my math score was going to be bad because I didn't really have any math courses in high school and throughout my college career yet. So I was approaching it, kind of I had a very basic knowledge of, math. And on the GRE, you go through stuff like trigonometry. I mean, nothing deep into these topics, but general topics in certain areas. So you're going to have geometry. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. You're going to have geometry, basic arithmetic, algebra, ratios and math formulas, geometry, if I didn't say that, statistics, counting methods and probability, statistics, and then other subcategories like problem solving, data interpretation, and quantitative reasoning. So you guys could look more into that on your own, but that's just an overview of what it's going to be about. So I really didn't have any of that stuff in high school. I took only like concepts of algebra and I barely passed it. So my math scores, I really had to make up for that. And I think if my math score wasn't so terrible, I would have scored, at least a few points higher in the GRE because my reading score was in the top 70th percentile. My math was in the bottom 40, and my writing was in the top 80th percentile. So if my math score hadn't been so low, I would, would have been able to have brought that up a lot. But I'm happy with my math score just because of where I was at the beginning of my studying and the improvement I made. That being said, I really wish I would have waited to take the GRE if I could have. I can't because I'll be applying in a month. But I wish I could have done that and waited because it would really help you if you guys took statistics and at least pre-calc or calc before you take the GRE. So if it's possible and you could wait and you could still get 1 to 2 months in of studying if you have time, I want you to take statistics and pre-calc or calc before you take the GRE, unless you're proficient in this stuff and you had it in high school and you feel confident and it's easier for you, just go take the GRE right away. I believe for CASP you have to have the GRE done before you apply. My school if you apply internally, some programs you don't have to take the GRE before you apply, as long as you take it before you interview. So let's get into how I studied specifically. So I used Kaplan materials. I think Kaplan has, some of the best, well-organized stuff out there. ETS as well, they're the actual makers of the GRE test. So if you can get stuff from them as well, they're a very good option. So let's go over verbal first. So I used, hope you can see this, flashcards right here. GRE flashcards. These GRE flashcards, and there's an app that comes with it, and I used the app if I didn't have the cards available, but I definitely preferred the cards just because you could set some aside and all that. And they have the word there, and then they have the definition on the back, if you guys could see that. And there's 500 cards in here, so with 500 words. And there's going to be a lot more words on the actual GRE test. A lot more options for words, I should say. You won't have over 500 words you have to define. And you're not defining the words, you're like using them in sentences and figuring out what works best in what sentence. But you definitely want to get you some GRE flashcards, or if you don't want to buy them, you could use an app. Magoosh has a good app, and Kaplan has a good app, and I believe the Kaplan app is free to use with the flashcards, but I'm not really sure. Because I can't really remember if I got it for free or if I got it with this. But I'm sure you can find an app with commonly used GRE words, and they definitely help. You want to do the flashcards every day. I went through all 500 twice. So you want to go through them, every single day. Next, I got a nice little book like the GRE Prep Plus 2020. 2019 actually, and the year doesn't really matter. I looked through it because I also have the 2020 version, and they're basically the same, so the year doesn't really matter as far as that goes. So this goes over the verbal stuff, like tips. It goes over quantitative. It goes over the entire GRE. So you definitely want to invest in one of these books. Definitely, it's if it's not GRE, invest in the ETS because they take you through tips on how to do some of this stuff. And some of the GRE questions are tricky. It's not necessarily about knowing this stuff. It's about knowing how to do it and the tricks. So you definitely want to get a book like this. There's practice tests in here. Go through the practice tests. Use the online instructions. They actually have like short little courses to go through. Definitely, watch those. Take notes. Highlight throughout the book. The big thing is the practice test. You want to practice, 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 and then when you got tired of practice, take a day off and practice the next day. You're going to want a lot of practice for the GRE. Ways to do this is, of course, there's practice tests in the book. I think Kaplan has online practice tests as well, and those are great because it actually mimics the actual setup of the test. You could also go on the ETS website. I think it's ets.org/GRE. where they test for you to do, and they're from the makers of the GRE, so they're exactly the same as what the GRE will look like. So I highly recommend doing those. I think you get 2 for free, and then the rest are paid. I only did the 2 free ones. And you want to space these practice tests out. So the individual modules that you practice, like say you're practicing a module for math or verbal, do those as you go along, and then redo them to test what you learned. Comes to like the practice tests that simulate an entire test. What you're going to want to do is space those out. So I took one at the beginning, which was like the initial kind of, to get an idea of where I would be, and I think I got like a 270 or 286 or something. Let me see if I could find it in my book. But, I scored just terribly that first time. And I think the first time is also like to get an idea of how you're going to do, but it's also to like just see yourself progressing throughout. So like sometimes you might not feel like you're making any progress, but if you look back on that first practice test and you go like look at your second practice test like a month in, I would take a practice test every month. You'll see that progress that you made, even if it's a few points. That's still huge. So you could see that. Well, you can't see it because I can't find it. But my first score was terrible. I think it was like a 286, so it was 10 points below the average for my school, and my goal was a 300. My last practice test I took, which is actually the same thing that I scored on the GRE, oddly enough, was a 307. So I went from 286 to 307 within a few months, which is, 10 points below the average to, at least like 12 points above the average. So I basically, if you look at it in a way, it's like I doubled my score kind of because of how the score is set up. That probably doesn't make sense, but it's alright. So I guess that's really all I have to say about how I studied for the GRE. Practice it every day. I reviewed like 2 sections or chapters in this book every day. And then on the side, you want to review the flashcards as well. Use the mobile app and take a practice test every month. And then when you're coming up to the test, take 2 practice tests. Take like a practice test like 3 days before. You don't want to take it a day before because you're going to drive yourself crazy. The day before, like 2 or 3 days before, don't do anything. Just like review, the basics. Don't overwhelm yourself, just relax. Figure out how to get to the testing site beforehand, because you have to take this at a specific testing site. So figure out how to get there beforehand because you don't want to mess up and be late. Plan to get there, 30 minutes to 15 minutes early. Just prepare and practice and build that confidence, and you'll be ready to go. So that's really all I have to say. I also wanted to mention I will be doing a giveaway on Instagram. I'll put the instructions in a post within the next few days about that, and I'm going to be giving away the GRE Prep 2020 book, which, like I mentioned, the years are the same, so don't worry that it's not 2021. The book is pretty much exactly the same. This is not sponsored by Kaplan or anything like that. Disclaimer. So I think that's all I got for today. Be on the lookout for that giveaway, and if you guys are taking the GRE soon, good luck to you guys. If you have any questions, you could DM me on Instagram at prepa_guide, or you could ask a question on my website, prepaforum.com, and I'll have those links in the description. I also put a link. I'll put a link to the post on my Instagram of the giveaway once I get it up for you guys. So be on the lookout for all that stuff, and that's all I got for today. I'm gonna go do a quick workout and get back to studying. So thank you guys for joining. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next Thursday.